splatter and the Selmy sort of coat of arms on it. They do appear to have several punctures, sort of arrow punctures probably, in what would be the backside of the coats. You find a letter bearing a broken Selmy seal. The letter concerns the payment of 2 gold dragons for trusted service to someone who is not named.
Mm-hmm.
The money is not in the letter. You find a letter with no seal, which is in a different handwriting. It doesn't really have anything but a few numbers on it, and then some sort of herbal combination, dried leaves that have been crushed in some manner.
Okay.
You find what seems to be a water skin that smells like really sour wine. It has been emptied, although recently it is still slightly damp. On the back of it, there have been sort of burned into the water skin. There has been a wine skin, so to speak. There's been burned in a crude map of the interior of Respite before the sort of recent renovations was done. Beyond that, there's also a pieces of parchment with rather well-made drawings of both Lanus and Lord Aeron, as they sort of recently have looked.
Even the Lord?
Yes. His lordship appears to be old, but he has not changed much in the last few years.
Because if there's like only a few people actually have access to him these days, that's what I'm thinking. Selmy, huh? Services rendered.
He's the cold reaches for the herbal combination.
Perhaps that's a cipher or code of some kind?
Hmm?
The numbers along with the herbal remedy.
The maester will nod. Say, it certainly could be. I'm not immediately familiar with the smell, but I take a look and see what sort of things there might be in it. The numbers, I can't say.
It doesn't want to take a look at the numbers.
Right. It is a series of 6 numbers. Looking like that.
Well, it is alternating, like jumping back and forth. It's 1 and then hops to 2, then back to 3, then back to 4, then back to 5, then back to 6. As to what it means, that I'm not sure. Unless the numbers or the sequence of numbers and arranged in that way has some sort of meaning for us that we've forgotten.
You don't immediately think of something, I don't think.
Would this be something that, along with like the herbal thing, I could attempt a cunning decipher skill check, Malachi?
I would suggest perhaps then an education knowledge
Okay.
check first to see about the herbs, if there's any connection. It could to you be dried grass.
Okay.
You have no real concept, just
Right.
from the basis of common knowledge, what this would be.
All right. Is there a thing like assisted skill checks in this?
So,
You can certainly roll a check and then tell someone what you think it is.
There is actually rules for assisting, technically, which is you add like a half number of dice, like a +1 bonus, something.
We could do some of that if you want to do like a test of it.
But
What sort of a knowledge on the top of your head? I would. It's not like you
It's not easy.
necessarily know that she even tries to think if she knows.
Yeah, knowledge is a little harder
Better
to
to
do.
roll your own check, basically. Yeah. But Cole, says that he will look into what sort of herbs they would be. So the number doesn't really. Maybe in conjunction with that, it will tell him something.
We just wait for more information once the Maester, who is so knowledgeable about healing things, is actually able to tell us what it all means.
Yeah,
At least that part.
He probably knows that. All right, so so one letter with some gold that's gone, of course. Saying
It seems to be a very standard letter of basically thanking them for their service and awarding with them the honorable a price of 2 gold dragons for their services.
We do have probably somewhere like old letters from Baron Selmy, right?
Would it be perhaps a knowledge or maybe even a status test to determine whether the letter itself, like the seal, could be a forgery, Manikai?
Oh, let's see.
Because
what kind of thing would that be?
Because with status, we would be obviously like familiar and trained with like not only seals, but how like the various emblems of the houses would look.
I could certainly see you trying to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I could accept that.
All right. That'd be something I'd be interested in trying. I will actually go ahead and roll that. Let's see how well Uncle's teachings have paid off. Not very well.
You would not be sure if this is.
Yeah.
You have not really been able to study the Selmy wax seal.
So,
Often.
in that case, that's all that Brienne would offer. That it's possible, like, or ask whether it would be possible to her uncle whether this could be like a forgery.
Mm-hmm. Here, the Decim is looking at the text itself, because it would be interesting to know if we actually have a sample of his handwriting already. If this is the Baron himself or his Maester writing this, we should actually have handwriting possibly matching this if we go back to like old letters and stuff. They are our closest neighbors, after all. I would assume that
That is something I would accept a spending of a destiny point for, perhaps. If you want to have a letter from the lord of that house laying around.
You know, there just happens to be one.
That seems
one
like
over,
an acceptable use.
You know, there just happens to be one over here, I say.
You will do that?
I can spend a destiny point on that.
Right. Well, then Maester Cole will inform you that yes, in fact, they do have a letter from some sort of prior thing in the recent months from that lord. And you
maybe it
certainly
was a
don't
request to go on a tourney or something.
or a warning about potential raiders down the Bone Way. Sent. He will go into his Maester's quarters right here, conveniently.
Very
Yes.
convenient.
The council table was put near the Lord's chamber in case he ever wanted to attend.
That, and then gather the letter and return with it after just a few minutes. To put it on the table and sit down again.
Let's compare the letters. See if the writing is the same.
Sure. That is something that would perhaps make sense for a language check, I think.
Language. Everyone, roll your language.
To do
Really?
to reading some things, such things.
I mean, we can certainly try. If any of us have any inclinations.
I mean, Bree might think that if Uncle Decim doesn't know about how words look, whenever she's probably the primary one who taught her how to read. She's like, how the fuck will I know? Yeah, sure, whatever.
She has such insights.
You know, she has seen all those letters back from when she was captured. Of course, she
I
knows
imagine
that.
we passed them around the table and everyone's like, yes,
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, most of you would seem that it is different. Bree would, however, notice that there is also another signature on the letter that you have, which matches the writing. It appears to be written by the Maester of House Selmy.
Bree will identify this salient point obviously expecting that her uncle would have noticed this already.
Decim will just nod sagely. Yes, of course. I knew that all along. Alright, so it's the maester writing. That makes sense. Well, that also means it is certainly official. And the drawings. Was there like any like notes or anything on the drawings or on the maps?
It doesn't appear that there are any markings.
Okay, it's no clear thing like
Yeah.
this is the room you need to strike.
Exactly, it's like a cross on one of the rooms.
In
This
the map,
one.
it appears to be of the keep before it was renovated. I mean, before Bree's return, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least a year and a half old then.
Right.
Which is good, people working on all information.
Mm-hmm. Year and a half, year-old information. Yeah, when was the last time we had Selmy over?
Not recently, no.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all recently.
Mm-hmm.
Our law doesn't really accept too many guests.
You know that the Selamis generally just hang out with the Dundarians.
It's
The young lord of Selmy
Mm.
is a good friend of Manfred Dundarian, who is the heir to.
it's reasonable to think that the Lornmen would know that we renovated the castle, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they have certainly noted the activity and probably also harried some of the sendings of supplies and whatnot.
All right. In that case, then, with that in mind, I mean, it's just information. Like I was thinking of the possibility that could be like a giant fucking ruse from the bandits. It's all lies.
How many roughly did Decim see that seemingly had new arms and armor among the bandits?
He noticed the two retainers were well armed. Just in general, really, they didn't look like the standard bandit types. And then he noticed 3 bandits who were well armored. The one skulking outside, perhaps, might have been less impressive. You certainly did not see much of their armor, but no glints or anything revealed that they would have a lot of metal on them.
So it was at least a patrol of 5 they caught. Why would they... That was a weird ploy. Did they really think... Did Selmy really think that like these people would be able to do what exactly to us? Like if he sends them armed here... Like then what? 5 people can't storm a castle. We might let them in, of course, if they're like, "Oh, we're from Baron Selmy," and we're like, "Oh, he's a good friend. Let him in." But I mean, even so, that'd be pretty ballsy to, when invited in, actually murder 2 of the people in the household.
Perhaps it's a distraction, Uncle. Did you not say that merchant that was here was heading to Ashford immediately after that his daughter was to be married away? Perhaps it's some sort of scheme concocted by Ashford involving the Lornmen.
Ashford. Look at the map. Maybe.
Ashford, as a reminder, was the house of the child who stabbed Lannis in the neck, right?
Would he be hating us enough to like do something like this? That seems like how much does he hate Lannis?
Don't believe
A
that
lot.
Desmond's met him, but Lanus knows that if this guy could get his hand on him, he would do things that are so terrible that Lanus sometimes has nightmares about thinking of it.
He does actually. It's kind of serious.
Maybe even at this point, he would. What does Lanus look like when the thought of perhaps this is a plot to get him by hiring the local bandits to?
Lanus right now has gone quite quiet as all of this has gone through. Like he kind of looked at the letters as it went around, but hasn't really said too much. And if people's ridiculous amounts of awareness, they would have definitely noted like him kind of uncomfortably shifting in the chair every now and again and kind of fidgeting a little bit. trying to look, trying to look like he's standing up, but it's like, this is not. Kind of wanting to leave, but not wanting to leave.
Gold leans back and looks at you and says, "You didn't happen to gain any look of any other metal? Didn't see any symbols, or I suppose you wouldn't have. But if we could get our hands on some of the armor and such, we might be able to gauge where it's from. Who made it?
Well,
If it's that good quality, that is."
I did specify that doesn't try to commit as much as possible to memory, and he did get a good look on the two retainers. Maybe he saw something?
You can probably roll my memory.
Okay.
Power of memory.
If there was any sort of... I'll just assume that the awareness was there, because you have a pretty high passive
Pretty
awareness.
good memory roll. Pretty good memory
You
roll.
are pretty damn sure that any place you could see, there were no form of identification symbol. Potentially, they were not so good as to be made by a castle maze, castle forge quality.
Okay. Then he will tell that is what he thinks.
Bree will ask, does House Selmy have a weaponsmith?
Gotwell shakes it, says, "No, not that I know of. House Selmy is mostly known for their crafting of bows. They are very good with their long bows. Famed for it, really." You would all know that the Selmies are very bow efficient, and they like them very much.
You didn't see any high-quality bows with them more so than usual for bandits, did you, Uncle?
Dasm slowly shakes his head. The archers never approached. They held themselves in the back in the bushes. It was difficult to see. Unless I somehow saw something that would be recognized as a Selmy bow, but I did not.
Well, what you might have seen is not enough for Desm's knowledge of finely crafted bows to really discern. You probably have had enough time to really, unless it's like super ornament, know what is a good bow and what is a crappy bow. I don't know how much marksman bow skill you have, but I'd wager it's not a lot.
Yeah, undetermined. Okay, so certainly seems plausible that it could be Selmy behind it. Maester writes it, payment for something, few patrolmen, might be involved with the Ashfords. That would be something.
I mean, they are our direct neighbours.
But that would mean that your enemy, what was his name?
Well, Gregor Ashford.
Gregor Ashford. That Gregor Ashford not only hates us so much that he's willing to hire the bandits, but apparently he does hate us that much. Or
Yes,
Laney
he's
or Laney specifically.
Yes.
And that he somehow gets Selmy in on this. Because I don't think the Selmy hates us very much.
Like House Selmy stayed out of the whole Dance of Dragons affair, right? Manikai, I can't recall.
The Dance of Dragons, they certainly were not one of the major parties in it.
Right.
Basically, that means that they did the minimal of what their liege lord commanded them to do.
Okay. Just a refresher. And certainly I do recall that there was nothing in our house history that would have suggested that House Selmy had a personal stake, so the rules have changed.
You would know that they are kind of generally have the young Lord Selmy has advocated that that the time of peace that the realm is currently enjoying because of the unification should be celebrated, because it gives more sort of time for less violent combat and more sort of sports-like battle. Where people can test their mettle in tourney fields rather than on bloody battlefields where the loser might never have a chance to get better.
It seems very odd for Selmy to move against us so brazenly. doesn't it? I don't recall us stabbing them in the back at some point. So why would they start now?
We are their neighbours, so I mean, I could see some reason.
I mean, sure, they look at our flax fields and are like, we want that stuff. But
Well, it would not be impossible for a house that so egregiously disliked ours to either fabricate or steal the surcoats of another house, would it not be?
possibly. And then somehow also steal the letters. Or another way, forge them in a way that we can't really discern.
You don't have to blame the entire house, do you, Uncle? It could just be the maester.
Quirks an eyebrow. Looks at Brienne. That would be...
Oh, frown.
that would be a particularly sinister and malicious maester. Looks over to Lanus. I don't suppose you've been stabbed in the neck by a maester of House Selby.
I am afraid I only have one wound in my neck. Though speaking, haven't ravens been going missing recently?
They have.
Bree shrugs. You're the one, Uncle, who says that it's so unreasonable that Hal Selmy would try to do anything against this house.
Mr. Cole, says, Mr. Boris and I have talked at certain points through the letters. He's an academic, although not sharing my field. I do not believe that he would willingly be part of such a thing. He is, however, sworn to serve the Lord of the House in whatever respect that may be, but he would not, I believe, act on his own in such a matter. I would be scandalized if any maester would do such a thing. It is not why we forge our chains. The chains remind us that we are here to serve, not to act independent.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Lean back a little bit, frowning still.
Bree will look from the maester, whom she doesn't trust, her uncle, and go, all right then, Uncle. What's your better explanation for why this has occurred then with the House Selmy surcoats? You've said yourself how impractical and seemingly illogical it is.
He nods, looking down at the items. It is odd. So things have certainly happened in the past that would suggest that these things are not impossible. Houses do make bids against each other from time to time. That is certainly true. Looking down at them. I am surprised that it would be Selmy to make that a move, though. That would not have been my guess, but maybe that is also why it is so dangerous to ignore it. Sort of looks at the surcoats, frowning. The question is, of course, exactly how to counter this. We need to try to figure out what the numbers and the herbs mean. Maybe that will give a more profitable venue for questioning when that is figured out. Until then, it would be interesting to know exactly if Ashford and Selmy have become very close recently, because that can certainly, as you suggested, be the reason before this. It is not impossible for someone like Gregor Ashford to besmirch our house. He already got to one of the bastards of Trant. He might have done something similar to Selmy.
I mean, he's managed to convince his entire house to be rather disliking of me.
How much would the House of Ashford, however, allow him to do? I can't imagine that even an oldest son would be allowed to have such freedom in words and acts.
It would be certainly unseemly, but that didn't stop him from stabbing Lanus.
We were younger then, admittedly. Still squirming slightly.
Mr.
Tries
Gold
to
it's
hold
down.
his foot.
It's back. Gold sets his jaw. So, what are we going to do about it? We're not really in a good position here to pick a fight.
No, we're not.
Perhaps the apparent weakness, however, is attractive to wolves or vultures.
We certainly have an out. We certainly can ally ourselves with Trent, and that. So Desmond looks very troubled thinking of it.
Calder frowns and leans back, troubled at the thought of Trent.
Yeah, Desmond doesn't seem to liking it much at all. When I spoke to the bastard of Trent, he, in no small way, more or less said straight out that they are planning to ally themselves with Damon Blackfire. Looks around the table.
Mr. Cole sort of frowns, shaking his head. And Colt also seems taking a little bit aback. Sort of, I have been in enough wars, I would say. The land doesn't need any more of those. Well, the Maester just frowns, saying nothing, perhaps thinking it out of his station to do so.
We are in a precarious position. Most of our resources are currently invested in the land and its production. We have now well-armed bandits scouring the land. Trent has offered to help us take care of that problem. Certainly very tempting. In return, we could marry off the two nieces to him, get a lot of money in the bargain, and even take care of the bandit problem in the process. That is no small thing for us. That is no small thing for us. However, that would mean that we would more or less hitch our wagon to them and through them to the Bittersteel and Damon Blackfire whenever he plans to return.
In the petulant, unaware, like 11-year-old voice. That's treason, isn't it, Uncle?
He looks to Brian and says, "It is and it is not. That is the problem with this. It depends on who would win such a war. It is the winner who decides who is treason, who was the one committing treason after all." Sort of massages his forehead.
Cole will look to and probably taking this as a teaching moment. He's had some time for the bad sense of situation with these things. He says, understand that the problem is that the good king, either of them, has been declared a bastard in one way or another. The good king has been said to have been the son of the old queen's brother, rather than her husband, while the young Blackfire is certainly favored by many. His claim lasts to the fact that he was perhaps desired to be the heir by his father, and legitimized on his deathbed. Some would say that if the current king was to have been a bastard, then he was never legitimized, while Damon was. However, there is no real proof I have seen for either situation.
Bree scrunches up her face, looking between the maester and the uncle. So there's no right answer then.
He sort of frowns. Says, the right answer would be the one. And then he sort of stops himself, looking to Desmond.
Desmond
Sorry.
nods slightly to him. No, I understand, Maester. I understand completely. He looks to Brian and says, the problem is a deep one indeed. Currently, the good king sits on the throne, and there is a pretender on the other side of the narrow sea, most like. Whenever he returns, they will no doubt fight to the death to find out who exactly is supposed to sit on the Iron Throne. As for now, it is certainly clear that the one sitting on the throne is the one that we are supposed to follow. He shrugs. It is something for our house to contemplate, although we are blessedly far away from King's Landing. Frowns again. It is problematic. Our current situation is tenuous. Trent and the alliance with Blackfire is a way out of it, but I am fearful that this will steer us into an even darker path in a few years.
God can't hold himself back. Besides, the Trents are known for terrible things. By allying with such people, we would get that sort of reputation ourselves as well. They are ungodly folk, and to say the least, my lords, we have enough of such a reputation already. There is no need to reinforce it. The gods have not smiled upon us, but we have not smiled much upon them either.
Decim looks like he's about to say something very sour.
He gives a disarming smile.
Very sour.
I know it's not my place to say. Perhaps accept at some point when we have the funds.
Your concern is noted, Gold. Thank you. It looks like Decim has a migraine. Yeah, that is indeed a question before us. We don't need
Mr.
to.
Cole gives Desm his leeches.
Decim makes a gesture that perhaps later that can be something that could be seen to.
Mr. Cole nods and seems pleased.
Wow.
Well, he's the medical master of the house. Like if he
If
recommends
you have a
it.
headache, it's because there's too much blood pressure on your
Oh,
brain.
I thought you were gonna give him the leeches because he said those things
Oh,
about how.
No.
Punishment. Tie him down and drain him.
Yeah.
No, it is a medical procedure.
It's
It's
a-
Mr. Cole. It's good for most things.
Mhm.
Really.
Makes-
Anger,
Mhm.
fits of rage, shaking sickness,
Uh-huh.
fevers,
Uh-huh.
headaches. Aches,
I wonder what
generally,
it's-
bleaching is good.
Cowardice
I-
looks over to Lanus.
No, not exactly.
Do you say that?
No.
That is not a disease of the body that can be healed. That is a disease of the mind.
Do you say that? Div's like, what are you gonna do? Cry?
You need the special leeches for that.
Just the brain leeches.
He doesn't
The soul
have money
leeches.
for those.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
People.
Nark. But it is interesting to what the peasants think of. I forgot their names already.
Trance.
Trents. But what does the peasant say about your house, Caladan?
Gold raises, sort of looks to one of the wine cups that are undoubtedly on the table. I guess with cider.
Sure.
They raise their cups to the house. Well, now they do. It was different in the past, but sort of, there's some things changed.
Decim nods. That they did. And for the better, all things considered, I do think.
Well, my point is, if we can take much truth from peasant talk. But at the same time, no, I do not trust them either.
The small folk are vital to our continued survival. Our fortune is built upon their work, and we should not disrespect them for it. They are uneducated and simple, but still they should be offered some measure of respect.
Then joining your house with them would be a bad idea.
On the
If you think
reputation,
of what the small folks say things.
no doubt they would not like the idea. The major problem is, though, as I said, twofold. We need gold, and we need to get rid of the lawnmen. Both of these things an alliance with Trent could provide.
Perhaps other alliances could be searched or found. Surely there are the people with young bachelors in the region, or maybe even outside of it.
Decim looks very surly down on the surcoats. It seems our prospective neighbors and friendly alliance prospects are shrinking alarmingly.
My understanding would also be that anyone who would want to marry the daughters would not stand to gain too terribly much. It's not as if the women are in position to inherit anything. It is only, say, those bastards whose stature would be even improved by actually marrying a highborn woman.
Yes. The problem is, of course, that they are still bastards. They are legitimized in the eyes of Daemon Blackfire, but not the current king. Does shrugs. I am unsure what the Iron Bank would even say to such an arrangement, or if they would care overly much.
They wanted
Looks-
people to vouch for the situation.
Are they gonna want like papers that like proof of a noble lineage, Uncle?
I'm actually not sure personally how the Iron Bank would actually check those things. Would that be a knowledge check? Or maybe Nima would know.
Like an Ask Nima check?
Yeah, ask Nima check.
Oh,
Tell us about the Iron Bank.
I'm.
Well, Nima could certainly do a knowledge check.
What?
I'd say that would be, since it's from Bravos, knowledge streetwise could work, perhaps? About what she has heard about the Iron Bank?
My street smart? What kind of check is that?
Knowledge streetwise.
I do not have streetwise.
Then it would just
whatever
be your
that is.
knowledge dice.
Oh. How should I know, basically?
Well, you would know better than anyone else sitting at this table.
See, you have never dealt personally with the Iron Bank, but it certainly is a big thing in Bravos. They are famed for always getting what is to them, and they will actually spend more money getting what they're owed than they are owed, simply to, well, keep up the attitude that if you try to cheat them, they will make your life hell. They have often enough paid, for example, if a nobleman borrows money but doesn't pay it back, they will pay maybe twice that to his rivals and send mercenaries to help root him out in whatever way they can to basically make sure that nobody tries to do it again, because it simply doesn't pay. They are very wealthy, and they have their own sort of trade fleets that sail around the mid-sea, trading spices and then carrying gold and the like. Pirates generally stay away. They're simply almost too big to fail. About this sort of thing, though, how much proof they would care about? Probably a reasonable amount, though. The thought is that since you would have to bring the letter and a few people to vouch, that might be enough by itself, given that they generally are very trusting. If it proves that you have been cheating them, however, they will generally make your life a bad time.
The sort of mechanical and social question then would be, bastards might be illegitimate, but they're still highborn, right? So they're still nobles and thus would qualify for filling your brother's, like, your character.
Let's bring out the letter and see exactly what he wrote.
You're not sure exactly how the Iron Bank would judge that, as they don't really have much of a notion of nobility in Bravos.
Oh, they're like...
I wish for Captain Nalia to be wed to men
They
of noble
probably
birth.
don't care
Yes.
overly much, as all of them would count as being noble.
Yes, of noble birth
Okay.
and stature. Well,
All
they do
right.
qualify.
They do. They certainly do.
It could be understood as if they act in a noble fashion, or they're born of a high house. I mean, it's up for some.
Gonna have
You're
to
pretty
tell-
sure that you know what it was meant to mean.
Yeah, but
your
that's...
interpretation can
Yeah,
vary.
but that's not important. What it was meant to mean. Likewise, I am just interested in the letter here.
Yes, Jark read it out specifically. I wish them to be wed to men of noble birth and stature.
Well, Galt is the noblest man I know.
In addition to the two of noble birth, to swear upon the weddings of my daughters.
Certainly.
You're saying you're marrying one of them to gold?
I
You
mean,
said gold is the noblest man you know?
Surely
I'm
that
not
would gain
saying
the house
anything.
the most benefit.
I mean, I'm not
Would
saying
that
Gain
allow
his
us
loyalty.
to withdraw the 10 wealth invested?
Oh, terrible.
Fire him, kick him out, and seize all his assets.
Give me all of that. And then we rehire him again. I mean, if he's in on the scheme, I don't see why not. Right?
Yes, that's how it works, exactly.
Right?
Oh my god.
Now listen
know
here,
the
Galt.
most
It's going to be a bit complicated, but stick with me.
We need to fabricate papers suggesting
It is
that
more
you-
like he is the 10 wealth. It's not like he has 10 wealth stacked in gold bars in the back of his smithy.
Oh, he doesn't.
No, he counts it. Your house is considered
Yeah.
more wealthy because it has his services.
Yeah.
Destroy all the castle for steel, melt it down, and sell it all.
Money! And then we run away.
Earn some money by
Yes.
completing
We go to live on the highlight.
Yeah, live our high lives out in Liss or something. Well, the alliance with Trent does not need to be decided upon right away, but it is something we should probably keep in mind and see if we can sort of figure out what we want to do. It is a lot of money, and it is an option to heavily reduce the Lorman's influence, which would be nice.
We are making a trip to House Wyronwood soon, Uncle.
Yes.
Perhaps we could find someone suitable there.
Oh, that would be simply delicious. Decim actually smiles genuinely at that thought.
Looked into it, and the oldest son of House Ironwood, the heir, is indeed, well, as it happens, both the sons of House Ironwood are unmarried.
Well. Oh man, that'd be
Did you
great.
say married or unmarried?
Unmarried.
So,
You need to speak up, old man.
Bree says, but as previously noted, the unwed Caladanians, they are not exactly of prominent stature. They are noble-born, and, there's gold dragons involved.
Could work.
Beyond
It's true
such, it is also a symbol of, well, a public show of alliance or friendship, at least.
It's true.
The terms you are expected to aid your family, unless you are publicly known to dislike them overly much.
I mean, it is.
A house that does not protect their own does not last very long, generally.
I kind of like the idea of marrying them off to Ironwood more than I do marrying off to Trent, because
Yeah.
that seems.
At least they might want to save the eldest for something that would
Oh,
have
yeah.
more political significance than us. But the second one,
Of course, we want to we first want to, of course, understand what they want us for before we trade and start declaring this stuff.
Yeah,
that's
we
why
need
we need to head there as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Settle-
literally tomorrow.
The House
Settle
of
horses.
Ironwood also hold the title of the Blood Royal and the Wardens of the Stoneway, which is the Dornish name for the Boneway. As the Dornish are much more equipped to handle the travel on it than the general Westerosi. They don't die as much.
Befriending them would certainly be an elevation for our house.
They're also known as the Keepers of the Gates. They keep the gates of Dawn, basically. And they have about the Warden of the Stoneway is a lesser title, perhaps, of the Dornish Lord of the Marshes, which, of course, is currently Lord Cairn, has the sort of power to call upon all the Lords of the Marshes to gather if the Dornish invade, take executive sort of orders. They have a similar fashion for the around laying houses and landed knights, that they can gather them up and tell them to come help defend if an invasion from the Iron Throne was to attack through the Stoneway.
It'd also be, despite the cultural differences, an investiture in the hope that, Dorne is officially a part of the Seven Kingdoms and that peace, be maintained on that
I
front.
mean, the king would love the idea. He would be like, "That's great, peace."
Which can
Yes, King Daeron
Well,
the true king, the current
The
king.
true king, of course, and
the
everyone
true
can nod.
king is certainly the cop-out answer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The true king would be pleased, and everyone's like, yes, of course.
The true king is the one who's currently on the throne.
And then one guy starts saying the one king's name, and the other guy starts saying the other king's name, and they're like, stop.
They look at each other. Well,
Yep.
we're gonna have to kill each other now.
Well,
The four princes of the current king should inherit. And then everything.
and then everything just breaks out into
oldest
complete
one?
madness.
But I mean, like from a pure example, like I know mechanically, like House Trent has an axe to grind with the current king about the whole Summer Hall thing, like over the fucking taking of land.
I like the idea of at least trying to marry one daughter to House Ironwood. I like that.
I like that idea as well. I am wary of the bitter steel and Damon
How
Blackfire.
old? How old are the two sons?
That's not important.
The,
Not really important.
What are you
The
talking
age of
about? What
women
is,
that matter,
well,
not
you're
the
not
age of
entirely
men,
sure, but they are young enough to not be married.
you know what?
So,
You know what? You know what we will do?
14.
We will wait for the nieces to arrive, and we will bring them with us down to Dorne. So they can
That's
be.
frown worthy. I mean, that could take a long time for them to arrive. We don't know exactly how far along in their trip they are.
But didn't they like pass through Trentlands like really recently?
They passed. They certainly arrived here. You know, they arrived in the Stormlands by boat, fast enough that the Trants could get here before they did. They probably will not take too long to arrive.
Okay, it was just a concern considering how long it will take to get the Wyvern.
You know that the Trants intercepted them basically
Okay.
on accident.
In that case, I guess we can use the several days to prepare then. Prepare for the trip to Wyronwood.
Yeah, because then we can bring them with us, and they can be all lovely and you know like lovely and bright creatures,
That's what I
like
like.
women
Welcome
should be.
from traveling all the way from Bravos.
Exactly.
Let's get on to travel the most horrible path in all of this.
Yes, and then they'll be like, "No, we don't want to marry." Like, God damn it!
You and then you said you what? You said what did you say? I didn't hear that. And
Well,
then
I
you-
mean, by the rules of society, the marriage cannot go through if they refuse to marry.
Oh, they won't refuse. Desmond stares at them. Will you now, my pretties?
You can't intrigue them if they don't want anything from you.
I mean, I can certainly just kick them out into the countryside to see how that.
But you're not the lord of the house. You can't make
Right.
that judgment call.
What do you say, Lord Aaron? Said that I should take care of it. All right, yes.
Yeah. The thought is, Desmond, he probably would, if he was asked.
Hmm.
Probably would have an opinion, and it probably would take a very long time for it, and he probably would come to a suboptimal decision.
Yes,
You anyway.
probably involving something he remembers from olden days.
But Mr. Goldnons, is there anything else then? I'm looking forward to studying these herbs. See what I can find.
I don't think there's anything else for now. We seem to have a somewhat of a plan of action. Now we just need to prepare to execute it.
Mons, I shall make a leeching ready for my lord as well.
Thank you.
Squirms a little bit more at the sound of leeches.
Carl will nod and say, Galt will nod and say, I will go and make a tally of our weapons and armor. It will take some time, but
Yes.
I'll go help you, Galt. I don't really leeches. Let's go, please.
he expects sure, my lady.
She'll smile up at him.
I like
We'll
the
go
fact
to the
that Nima
Duchess,
has no
knowing
reason.
probably that this is mostly just a. She just wants to get out of there, probably.
Yes, as fast as
And he's okay with that.
You know, Nima just looks bored and just walks out. I don't have to come up with any reason to leave. I just leave.
Things my character does not want to be around: leeches. Decim with a migraine. Cole with leeches.
Nice,
Can
we'll
I
stand
get a
up.
training
Giving a small
dummy?
pound with on. Cool.
We're pretty sick.
I think I will return back to, well, managing our lands since you had a nice trip. These are still a slightly bitter tone about you going out to parley with
To
bandits.
sit with the sack of.
Yeah.
evidence.
Yeah. Could you do you have like a formal DM approved list of descriptions of the items you could paste in the chat?
Sure.
I made a description of the item tags. I typed it out.
Thank
It's,
you.
it's not D-improved. It doesn't have Manakai's seal on it, but
Broken Manakai seal.
ah,
What's-
Desmond then sits alone in the empty council chamber
Yeah.
with only his raven as a companion.
Yep. Come! I'm a bird! Come!
Staring out at the open window. into the great courtyard.
Yeah.
With that scene finished, will we move to another one? Do you think, or is there anything in particular you want to do before getting the results of the tally of weapons and armor and the Maester's?
Nothing that I want to enact. Jonas wanted to execute the AFK maneuver, though.
I'm sure he
Very-
doesn't really care about the results of these things. Then,
A very important maneuver.
but you know, Gold will tally up the weapons and armor and say that there appears to be nothing really missing, except for
Okay.
like 3 long swords. They'll have to be
All right.
made to the stores, but I think you took them, so you know.
Okay.
And the Maester will say that this appears to be tea leaves from Tyrush, perhaps. He's not entirely sure, but they appear to be. Nothing is found in them. Appears to say that they're harmless, and he's fairly confident that you could brew a tea and drink it and be perfectly fine. By themselves, at least. Perhaps there would be some other remedies that they would have to find. Perhaps pertaining to the numbers could be have a predetermined list of other herbs in the area or some such that could make this into something. But as it is, it appears to be a type of tea. Spiced tea. Not really spicy, but kind of minty. You cannot think of something in the area you could mix it with that would pertain to make it something. It is something that you could probably find without too much trouble in a merchant's goods traveling the area, some such. Strange thing to bring with you on a mission to go somewhere, but the lawnman might not have known what it was
Okay.
at all.
Could tea be feasibly dangerous for anything?
Again, it's a collection of things. You could maybe mix it with something else to have some sort of poisonous reaction.
All right.
But beyond that, you can't really think of something. It's not something that's really done often.
Okay.
Poison was never really a specialty. You can find out to heal it if there's a problem, but this is something from across the narrow sea. It doesn't have much of a reference of mind.
Where's Hyrush located? Maester?
Tyrush?
Tyrush, yes.
Well, I don't think we have a sea here, but it is located pretty much close to Valeria. If you looked, if you took actually sort of the Dornish marshes and went directly straight over, it is not too far away. It is one of the city-states that are free cities that are relatively easy to trade with, barring pirate activity in the area.
So it's so he would think it. I mean, it seems like a fairly exotic locale, though he said that he didn't think it'd be that difficult to obtain from a merchant.
Yeah, it seems like an exotic trade good, more
Okay.
so than anything else.
Huh. All right.
All right, I'm back.
Well, Jonas,